This is Stan. Welcome back to the Crow's Nest Railroad. Well, we're going to do some experimenting today. How to move and store this little steam engine. Well, steam engines like this don't usually live on the rail. They're usually on a rack somewhere where they can be worked on and steamed up and all the preparations can be done. And that's true for this little steamer as well. He's a project, not quite ready for action. Got some more work to do. But I still have to move him around and work on him and manipulate him in the shop. And he's really too heavy. I shouldn't be just deadlifting it. And certainly I would not be lifting it when he's steaming hot. So let me show you a solution that I've tried to come up with that will allow me to not only work on the engine, but to move him around and to transfer him to and from the rails without having to lift and be able to do so safely. I picked up this particular lift at Harbor Freight. It gets really low to the ground, and that's exactly what I need. It's actually way heftier than I need. 1,500 pound capacity, I don't need anywhere near that. But it did get very low to the ground, and then it raises up to this height so that I can sit on a mechanic stool and work on the locomotive here. Just FYI, I have another lift from Harbor Freight. This one is a much lower capacity. It's enough for my 7.5-inch gauge locomotive, but I got this one because it would actually go much higher, and it helps me to load this unit into the car. So it's a little backwards. This one has a smaller capacity lift. It's big enough, but the motorcycle lift is a larger capacity, and I have a much lighter locomotive for it. But again, it gets really low to the ground, and that's what I needed. I went to the metal distributor where I get some supplies, and they just happened to have some 16-inch by 2-foot plate, and that's actually exactly what I need. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick or so. So on my little locomotive, it will flex a little bit, but I think that's okay. So I got 2 of these. One I'm going to attach to that motorcycle lift as a deck, and the other one I'm going to use as a transfer ramp to go between the lift and the track. Before I start working with this metal, the way they severed it, it's razor sharp on the edges. So I'm going to get my palm sander and some 80 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to roll everything over so that there's no sharp knife edges on this piece. All right, these are no longer guillotine blades. So we got to drill some holes so that I can bolt this to the lift. Okay, the plate's bolted securely to the lift. I'm going to drop it down, and I'm going to drill a couple holes here so that I can just pin that transfer plate and make it easy to hold it so it doesn't slip. So I'll just pin this ramp on when I need it, and you can see that it'll be a nice gentle slope down to the rail height out on the driveway. And then it's a reasonable height when it's in the up position, when I'm sitting on my mechanic stool to work on the locomotive and to steam it up. So let's do a sample transfer. The thing to remember is I just can't be picking this up even when it's cold, and it's impossible to pick it up when it's hot. so I can only push it back and forth. Even though it's not ready to go yet, this will be a great sample test for our system here. So we've got our lift, and the locomotive is parked on that piece of metal bolted to the lift, and I can steam it up and work on it and do everything I need to on the locomotive. And then once it's up to steam pressure, we need to get it on the rails. So now let's get our ramp piece and go from this down the ramp. Okay, we have it lowered, and you can see the piece of metal that I use as a mini poor man's turntable, which you saw in a previous episode if you've been following the channel. And I also have a 4x4 and a little piece of plywood to block up that sheet. So we've got a ramp down just a very slight incline, and then that ramp rests on the steel sheet, and that's braced up with those blocks so nothing can collapse. Well, I think that's a successful test. Of course, the real truth is when this thing is hot and ready to go, being able to manipulate it that easily. So that'll be the true test. But for now, I'm going to count this as a win. And I'm going to thank you so much for watching. I hope it gave you some ideas of things to do and maybe some things not to do. But most of all, I hope you'll join me right here next time on the Crow's Nest Railroad.